We are live in Las Vegas. Huge sports weekend on tap, and we want to appreciate everyone joining us here on Bet. 20 minutes and change ahead of us as we're going to break down the baseball first handful of weeks so far in the season. Buster Olney standing by, and Anita Marks will join us in the second half of the show to discuss the NBA playoffs, an action-packed weekend. And there's some futures we are looking at with most of the conference semis dead even. But let's look at the baseball season in terms of the futures market. Odds to win the World Series. These are the biggest shifts we've seen since opening day. Rays obviously expected to be solid, but what they started out of the gates, they're now 8-1 among the favorites to win it all. Brewers, Twins in that 40-1 range. Now that's cutting nearly in half. And the Pirates, 200-1 long shots, currently in first place. That is now 100-1 long shot. So still over 100 games left in the baseball season, well over 100 games, but still worth noting the biggest shifts. Are they pretenders or contenders? And for that, we welcome in Buster Olney here, who is as plugged in as anyone in the baseball world. And you got obviously your home decor in the background there, Buster. So let's talk about these Pirates in their own division. 60-1 at the beginning of the season, just to win the Central. Currently 6-1. So obviously those odds have come down as their record and wins have gone up. But at 6-1, they're still fourth in terms of fourth shortest. So they're not exactly favorites right now. We've seen teams start well and then fade. But sometimes they have not faded, like the Giants a couple years ago. Can the Pirates do what the Giants did a couple years ago?
Doug, I think they can. And I think the key phrase, and I've probably mentioned 2 or 3 times in talking with you today, divisional context. You know, if the Pittsburgh Pirates are playing in the American League East, I'd say, no, I just don't think it's possible. But they're playing in the National League Central, which is arguably the weakest division in baseball. You know, the Milwaukee Brewers, with their budget challenges, we don't know if at midseason they're going to be trading off some of their guys. They're not a dynamic team. The Cubs are improved, but they're not a dynamic team. The Cincinnati Reds are still building right now. And, of course, the St. Louis Cardinals are a total disaster, probably the worst team in the National League at this point. So the Pirates getting off to a good start. The fact that they play in the Central, I think absolutely keeps them in play. And you know what? They're a good team. You know, and they clearly, with Andrew McCutchen leading the position players, leading a team, having that much fun, all the energy around that club, I think they can keep it rolling for a while.
All right, so you're bullish on the Pirates and the division, not exactly world beaters. You mentioned the Cardinals. You called them a disaster. In the betting world, they are just that. The least profitable team at the betting window, down 15 units. So let's talk more about these St. Louis Cardinals. Obviously, they've come out of nowhere to make the playoffs, late playoff runs. In terms of just like the context, because they play in the same division as the Pirates, so they can still make a run, all things considered, only 10 games out, but still well over 100 games left in the season. What's their most glaring issue?
Oh, they're pitching, without a doubt. A 4.79 ERA. And look, for the last 20 years, basically the time that Yadi Molina was their catcher, you could pretty much count on year after year after year the Cardinals would be in the top 10 in terms of team ERA. And this year, when you look at the staff, it's a mess. Yesterday, Jack Flaherty went out 2 1/3 innings, 10 runs allowed. The Cardinals' hope going into this season, going into spring training, was that Flaherty could finally work his way back from his shoulder issues, and he could be the power guy at the top of their rotation. But so far, he's been far from that. And when you look at the staff they've assembled in 2023, when so many teams are focusing on missing bats, Cardinals pitchers, you can put the ball in play against them. 334 opponents average on balls put in play. That's the second worst in baseball. It's nearly 50 points higher than what the Cardinals allowed last year. So is it the arms? Is it the catcher, Wilson Contreras, taking over from Molina? I don't know. But the pitching is not close to what we're accustomed to with St. Louis.
You know, and they've lost 9 of 10, so it's not like it's just been consistent losing as well. One thing to note, they do have the Tigers coming to town, so maybe that sort of catapults things moving forward. They're big favorites on this Friday, but something to keep in mind, they've had 10 series this year. They've lost the opener of all 10 series. So this is their 11th. We'll see if they can buck that trend. They have a World Series title, but other franchises do not. fun prop right now at Caesars Sportsbook. Will this year we see a first-time World Series winner? So it's like a grouping that's, we see this in golf, lefties at the Masters, like these four guys, random groupings, the seniors, all the guys over 50. Here it is, first-time winners. So you have among the favorites like the Rays and Padres, then you have the Rockies at 300-1. Do you think we will see a first-time winner? This prop is yes, plus 245. So you get all these teams nearly 2.5 to 1. Do you think we'll see one this year?
Yes. And look, I picked the Padres to win the World Series before the year started, and they're playing okay, not great, but now that they have Fernando Tatis Jr. back in their lineup, that should be a dynamic offense. They've kind of taken off since he returned to be a guy at the top of their order. But the Tampa Bay Rays right now, they look like they could hold up that bet all by themselves.
Right.
You know this number. Among teams that have started regular seasons with a 26-6 record, the Rays are now the fifth team to be able to do that. The other four teams that did it all went on to win the World Series. They have great hitting. They have great pitching. They have great energy. They have tremendous depth, which is going to be incredibly important in a year in which it doesn't look like there's going to be much available at the trade deadline. The Rays, the Padres, for me, make this bet a yes.
All right, and just to put this in percentage terms, what this payout is at the prop is kind of like 33% range. So if you think there's a better than 33% chance, then one of these teams will win the World Series, then there's value on that. Okay, there's a bunch of options at the betting window, not just the World Series futures. There's yes-nos in terms of will a team make the playoffs. They can do it through the division title or they can do it through the wild card. Such a spotlight this year on the Angels because Shohei Ohtani has free agency impending. Will the Angels at least get something in return for him if they are out of the playoff picture? And that would obviously affect the MVP if he switches leagues, and Cy Young as well. So there's a lot of moving parts to this, but such sort of impact on the baseball world with the Angels playoff chase. They're no minus 175. So they're more likely, according to the betting market, to miss the playoffs than make the playoffs. What say you?
I think they have a real chance to make the playoffs, again, because of divisional context, and that changed dramatically in the last week. The Houston Astros, defending champions, they've dominated the American League West in recent years. They lost 40% of their rotation. Urquidy going down to a shoulder issue. Luis Garcia going down to an elbow issue. And they already lost Justin Verlander from that team last year. So with the Rangers playing better, with the Angels playing better, the Mariners, they showed this last year, they could be better. I think this division is wide open. And as long as the Angels are competing, they are not going to trade Ohtani. In fact, I think even if they were not necessarily competing, I still don't think they would trade Ohtani because Artie Moreno, their owner, who went on the record in spring saying if we're contending, I'm not going to trade him. Does he want to deliver the most dynamic player, two-way player in baseball history out of town? Or is it easier for him politically to simply let him walk away as a free agent? I don't think there's any question about it. It's the latter. In fact, I've been told by sources in the American League, Ohtani's not getting traded. They should be a good team all year with Ohtani competing not only for the MVP award, but for the Cy Young award.
Yeah, optics are so important. And right now he's in the discussion for the Cy Young, but like the odds, you can actually bet separately if he wins both. And I can't see a way that he wins the Cy Young but not the MVP because of his hitting is so valuable. But it'll be interesting to monitor. And to your point, if the Halos just stay within striking distance around the trade deadline, that's all they have to be. It's the trade deadline is the cutoff. And then down the stretch, They should be in that picture. I want to talk about the Yankees because this is a team that everyone expects a lot from, even though they haven't won the title since 2009. They've been in the mix, in the discussion. But they are in last place right now in the American League East, 9 games back. Now, a lot can happen. Obviously, Judge has not been the same as he was in last year's MVP campaign, but their odds to make the playoffs are minus 280. I mean, this is like serious stuff. It's nearly 70% range we're talking. Do you think it's that? Do you think that's a fair price right now on them to make the playoffs?
100%. 100%, Doug. They're in trouble. And look, I've known Brian Cashman, the general manager, for a quarter century. The only time he comes out and does pressers the way that he did on Wednesday is when he knows the team is in an absolute valley because he feels like, look, I need to go out and take pressure off my manager. I need to go out and take pressure off my players. And as he told the reporters, they've been devastated by injuries. Not having Aaron Judge, not having Giancarlo Stanton, those guys on the injured list, Carlos Rodon. That's like the Chicago Bulls not having Michael Jordan, Pippen, and Horace Grant. There's no getting around the fact that not having your best available players is going to be something terrible for them. And I'll say the phrase again, divisional context. They're in the same division as the Rays, who've just taken off. Yankees are almost double digits out of first place. Same division as the Orioles, the improved Red Sox, the Blue Jays. It is a tough road ahead for the Yankees to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm right there with you in terms of we're early May, so there's a lot of baseball left, but I can't lay 280 for them to make the playoffs. It would be plus money on that, plus money on a lot of outcomes. It's baseball, as you know. Any given day, crazy things are going to happen, and it's cluster hitting. It's not just the lineup, but we've had some nice surprises so far in this season. What would you say is the largest and biggest surprise in your eyes?
Well, I would be a complete hypocrite if I didn't say the Tampa Bay Rays. I had them out of the playoffs when we started the season. I had them at 86 wins. But what we're seeing so far this year is a completely different Tampa Bay Rays team than we've ever seen. They've always had good pitching. They've always had one of the more dominant pitching staffs. What's different this year is the hitting, all the home runs. Doug, think about these numbers that they have so far this season. They've hit 67 home runs, by far the most in the major leagues, 13 more than any other team, and they've allowed 20 home runs. By far the best for any pitching staff. So they've hit the most homers. They've allowed the fewest homers. The dominance that they've had early this season is real. And with the depth in their organization, the depth in their lineup, the depth in their pitching staff, I don't think they're going away.
What's the reason for the sudden increase in homers? Have they changed batting coaches? They changed lineup plans of attack? What's the difference?
Well, I think it's health for their two major stars, Wander Franco, Randy Rosarena. This team is reminding me a lot of the 2021 Giants that you referenced, where they kind of came out of left field, surprised people, wound up winning the National League West. That team at its core, you had Buster Posey and Brandon Crawford, Brandon Belt having career-type seasons. And then all the platoons that they would have around them, that all worked as long as you had those core guys. That's kind of what we're seeing out of the Rays this year. Great core performances from their stars, surrounded by guys who are taking advantage of platoon matchups, left-handed, right-handed. I talked to Eric Neander, their general manager, head of baseball ops earlier this year, and he talked about how they're getting contributions from all over that roster. It's been impressive. Yeah, it's very impressive. And to come full circle, we mentioned the Pirates at the beginning. That Giants team was 50-1 to win at all that year. So maybe they are making, or win the division as well. Sorry, I said not win at all, win their division. Hey, Buster, thanks so much for taking the time. I know it's a obviously busy baseball season for you. We appreciate the insight. Thanks, Doug. All right, now, as promised, we're going to shift gears to the NBA, which is in full postseason mode, and that's where we welcome in our Anita Marks. Anita, good to be with you. Talk a little NBA. Huge weekend on tap. 3 of the 4 conference semis are tied 1-1. The other one 2-0 in favor of Denver. So we saw the Lakers last night lose to the Warriors. So now the series is shift 1-1 as it heads to L.A. Part of me wants to throw out the result, maybe not who the winner is, but just the point differential. We kind of seen this happen throughout the postseason, but I wonder if the Warriors have sort of unlocked their offense against this defense of the Lakers that has size and length, running the pick and roll through Steph. It's definitely a different approach, but one we did see the Warriors use last year in the NBA Finals. How are you viewing this series now going into Game 3?
I think the Lakers accomplished what they set out to do, and that is winning one game there on Golden State, that Warriors hardwood, right? Very few teams have been able to do it this season, Doug, right? They've only lost 13 games at home, and of course, this last one was to the Lakers. There's no knee-jerk reaction for me here in Game 2, right? Like Klay, 8 for 11 from downtown. Of course, he wanted to go going up against his dad's Lakers team. He wanted to put his best foot forward. Also, you got LeBron James. He played 28 minutes. Yeah, he put up 23 points. I went online to look at the statistics. The Lakers bench, 9 players got some action and combined for 106 minutes. So again, Game 2, I think the Lakers did what they tried to do, heading out there and at least winning one, taking back home court advantage. And one thing, Doug, we've been talking about all season long is that this Golden State Warriors team, one of the worst teams on the road. I do not see them winning at the Crypto.com arena.
Wow.
I just don't. This Lakers team, #1 defense in the NBA since the All-Star break. I just don't think we saw the best Lakers team put their best foot forward in Game 2. I think they know the series is theirs to win.
Yeah, and we've seen teams lay down in Game 2, like you said, got what they came for, a split. Keep in mind, the Warriors have won 29, I think is the number, 29, a road game in 29 straight playoff series. So it's bound to happen. They did it against Sacramento. I actually think we see a split this weekend in terms of games 3 and 4, and then each team holds serve. I think this goes 7 games. And in fact, you can kind of bet on that exact outcome. Now, I would have to pick the winner in 7 for this next sort of index betting, it's called. One-way index betting, you have a bunch of options in there, but if you like the Warriors in 7, that is plus 275. Lakers in 7 to win on the road, obviously in a Game 7 would be 5-1, but let's say that you think the Warriors have unlocked something and they can win the next 3 straight, that's 7-1. Or maybe the Lakers hold serve the next 3 home games and win in 6, plus 290 is your outcome on that front. So is there a play that sort of catches your eye on that front, Anita?
Yeah, again, I don't have a lot of faith in this Warriors team to win in LA. So I see the Lakers winning the next 2 at home. That puts the series at 3-2. Then they go back to Golden State. Okay, I'll give Golden State that one. So now the series is at 3-2, and it goes back to LA, where I think the Lakers seal the deal. So I'm going to play the Lakers to win this series in 6. So I've got the Lakers at 4-2 to win this series. And you touched on something really good, Doug, and that is, we saw JaMychal Green come in. Was Looney ill? We don't know, whatever the case. That did work. But I do expect one thing about LeBron James. I know a lot of people out there feel that he's the GOAT. He's one of the most intelligent basketball players still in the NBA. And he's one of those player coaches. I'm really intrigued to see how the Lakers counter with what Kerr brought to the table against AD. So this is really going to be interesting, I think, Game 3. But I like the Lakers in 6.
No, it's absolutely fascinating. And I think that's definitely a path to that. To your point, they took care of Memphis in 6, held serve in Games 3, 4, and 6 after winning Game 1 on the road. So that would be Lakers in 6 for this series. I like Lakers in 7, actually. I think they could get up for that. That would entail the Warriors losing Games 6 and 7, or at least in my head. I mean, maybe both road teams could win Games 5 and 6. But I like that 5-1 payout if I were to do it and then have some fun with it, maybe in-game wagering, hedging, things like that. All right. You can bet the futures odds, obviously, in terms of the team to win it all. But you can also bet finals MVP odds. Then, for the most part, the superstar are correlated to the teams. Let's start with the team first. And no surprise, after winning Game 2, the Celtics are your betting favorite at plus 225. Now, the Nuggets are up 2-0 in the semis, and they're plus 450. So they're right there. Path, could be a little bit easier in the East if the Celtics get past a hobbled Sixers team and then get Miami or the Knicks, because the Bucks are out of the picture. So that's why it's sort of the combined win probability of the series, and obviously the Celtics are sitting pretty. But these are MVP odds as well. So there's a lot of similarities between the team odds and the player odds, like Steph Curry, things like that. But there's a couple where there's a large gap, like Jaylen Brown. Now, he's not the best player in theory on the Celtics, but Jaylen Brown at 10-1 certainly has my attention. He's capable of being that dynamic in 4 playoff wins in the finals. Now, Brown is very good, so is Tatum, but Brown was in the mix a year ago before they lost to the Warriors, so I think 10-1 has value in it, considering Boston is plus 225, so a much larger payout in that regard. Any of these MVP bets catch your eye?
So I'm with you, right? Like, if you want to wager on the MVP, then obviously you want to make sure that player comes from the team, obviously, that you think is going to win. And we've been talking about this on Daily Wager for weeks now, Doug. I don't understand the disrespect for the Denver Nuggets. I know you live in Vegas. I'm out here in New York. Maybe it's because a lot of people out here just don't stay up late and watch West Coast basketball. But I just love this Denver Nuggets team. Dare I say sweep against the Suns? No Chris Paul. He's dealing with that groin injury. Realistically, do the Suns win tonight? They very well can. But I think this is a Denver Nuggets team that They were able to finish off Minnesota, get some rest. I think they're going to be able to finish off the Suns, get some rest. I think the 76ers, whoever's coming out of the East, I think it's going to be a battle. I wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks and the Heat go the distance. Not sure about what's going on with the 76ers. Again, we talked about it on Daily Wager earlier today, and Embiid just looks like a shell of himself playing with that knee brace. I do have Boston coming out and potentially representing the East in the championship along with the Nuggets. So how could it not be Jokic? Especially you and I went back and forth on Daily Wager. I feel Jokic was more deserving to win the MVP. He didn't get it, so will the voters and all, be more gracious to him to give him the finals MVP if Denver wins the championship? I think so.
Can't fault you at all on that because I do think everyone's been sleeping on Denver. You might be right. It could be bedtime on the East Coast, but I just think it's lazy hot takes in the fact that people are like writing off the Nuggets because they didn't make a deep run his 2 MVP runs. Well, here's the thing. They weren't full strength. So it's not Jokic, his fault. Once you get into the playoffs and you're facing really good teams and you don't have like your Jamal Murray and company, you're not going to win. You need supporting players, not just the superstar. In terms of the team futures, so you saw Jokic, it's plus 450. So if you like the Nuggets, you're basically weighing plus 375 against plus 450. That 75-cent difference is the potential of Jamal Murray and maybe even someone else winning finals MVP. That's why there's a little gap. But I mentioned 10-1 with Jaylen Brown. That's a big gap with the Celtics at plus 200 because Tatum is the likeliest outcome for Boston. But I think Brown is, he's right there with Tatum. He could have some really big games, especially defensively. So I think for me, Tatum is worth a play at 10-1. I know you were thinking AD as well for the Lakers, just given LeBron's age, but AD's been kind of hot and cold this postseason as well.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. If you feel that the Lakers are going to the championship, yeah, I think AD is the play there. Especially, again, I'm expecting a bigger and better performance from him than what we saw in Game 2. I do believe that if the Denver Nuggets win the championship, I think Jokic wins the Finals MVP. Yeah. But I think Murray could have some really good value there at 14-1. He's been a beast. Game 1 and 5 against Minnesota. He put up almost 40 points both games. Against the Suns in Game 1, 34 points. So I think that could be a sneaky good play. And I'm with you, right? Tatum is fantastic. We saw him get into some foul trouble this last game. But Jaylen Brown has just been a beast. One of my favorite bets is him over 3-pointers tonight. So I think all 3 of those guys give you more value and could be a really sneaky good bet in regards to the Finals MVP because of how well all 3 of them have been playing in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean the 10-1 odds translates to like less than 10%. So you're looking at like 8% or so. I think there's a better than 8% chance with these teams involved that Jaylen Brown could win MVP of the finals. All right, Anita, great stuff as always. Thank you so much. Enjoy this awesome sports week. And I know you're fired up, especially with the Kentucky Derby on tap on Saturday. Thanks to everyone for tuning in as well. Have a safe and enjoyable weekend.